Today we're looking at mastering and how to get a song from this to this. Let's get into the video. So here's a quick rundown of how I mastered a piece of Your Time track. John set me the challenge to master it, which I don't like, to be honest. The reason being is that the whole process of mastering is about making sure that your mixes, sound good and are radio ready, and that's really important. But the biggest thing is to make sure that they work in different environments. If you haven't got the right kind of sound absorption in your room and your room hasn't been tuned, then your mix isn't going to transport very well. So you might do a mix in your home studio and then you put it in your car and it sounds totally different because it's moved into a different environment. And the reason that is because it's a bit like going to Great Yarmouth Funhouse where they've got like all the funny mirrors, right? And you look into these funny mirrors and the image that you're seeing of yourself isn't a true representation of who you are because the mirror is distorted. And so in your room, when you're mixing at home, your studio room is distorted. So if you've got, let's say, and I don't mean distorted like guitar distorted, but let's say you've got loads of soft furnishings in there, a big sofa that is taking up loads of high-end information, you're probably going to mix it with way more high-end than it needs because you're listening in an environment that hasn't got high-end information. Or it might have loads of bass, so you cut the bass, and so you're not getting an even mix. So to send it to a mastering engineer, they've got great rooms that are really well tuned and they know what they're doing. So it's a bit like getting your teacher to check your work before it's marked. I've done a lot of mixing in my time. I enjoy mixing, that's cool, but mastering is a completely different art. So for me to get the brief to master this myself does make me feel a little bit nervous, but we've got to do it. So let's get on with it. So if we go over to the screen here, I'm using, this is Studio One by Presonus. So I started off with adding a couple of EQs. If we listen to the track without the EQ. So if we just put that in, you'll hear the difference. So that's made a massive difference, and that is just getting rid of some mud around this 100 hertz area around here. And I've done quite a big sort of broad boost over the top end. I've cut here, that'll probably be about, where's that at? Yeah, just above 3K. You find between like 3K and 4.5K is a real kind of nasty area. I'll show you why I've cut that. Just a bit of a cut there, just to clean that up. Makes it a bit less kind of sizzly. So that's the first EQ. Now if we go on to the second EQ here, this is just cutting some more mud out in the low. I've got some more kind of surgical cuts here. So let's have a listen to it before and after. So before. With this kind of EQ in, you notice that when the cut's happening here, it gives a more focused high end, which is interesting. A lot of people would add more top, but actually you want to get rid of the problem things. A bit like life, really. Do you know what I mean? Get rid of the problem stuff and then everything else seems a bit better. So that's just tidying up the low end and making it sound good. I did the whole mix with these two EQs on. I got all the instruments in and just felt that I balanced the volumes out first and got the mix kind of where I felt it sounded good, and then just did these EQ moves on the whole mix rather than going into like the individual instruments as well. But this is just a kind of a quicker way of doing it. You know, like sometimes when you're cooking, you don't like season every individual ingredient. You just chuck it all in the pot and then season it all together. And this is kind of what we're doing here. So this is the Greg Wells Mix Centric, and this just adds a nice kind of layer of polish. So this is it before. So that's sounding great. Next in the signal chain, we've got a Fairchild 670 compressor. So this is a great compressor. I'm just using it to just kind of tickle the low end a bit. It's just hitting those kind of kicks and snares, that kind of low end information. Each kind of compressor or EQ adds its own kind of color. So if you think about a Instagram filter, for instance, how that you could get like a summery Instagram filter, which adds kind of like some brightness and some highlights, and all these different filters do a similar kind of thing, but just with a different kind of texture. And that's what you find with different EQs and different compressors. So this one is just adding, I've got it boosted just to add a bit of level, so that's why it's getting a bit louder, but it's also adding a bit of brightness to it, a little kind of slight scooped kind of sound to it. But that's what I'm using this for, and it's sounding great. Let's have a listen. Just want a piece of your time. Don't say Next in the chain, we've got the Drama S73. It's based on the 3-band multi-band compressor from Drama. The good thing about this is you don't have any control over the 3 bands. It's just kind of set it and forget it. And it sounds really musical, really clear. And I like to call it magic, sparkle, shine, because it kind of feels like it's just adding some magic, some sparkle and some shine. So here's what it sounds like. Just want a piece of your time. Just want a piece of your time. So we've got the Oxford limiter. I've had this compressor for years, and it's great because it feels like you can put loads of gain into it, and it just sort of sits there and goes, come on, give me your best shot. And you sort of, it's like the output is kind of getting louder and louder, but it doesn't feel like it's completely collapsing it all. It just, it works really well. It's also worth checking out that the peak light is actually coming on before I put the limiter on, and it gets louder, but it stops peaking. Just want a piece of your time. Don't say just want a piece of your time. So the last plugin we've got in our signal chain is this SonarWorks Reference 4. Now, I'd heard some things about this and thought, is it any good? Is it okay? You never know. And so basically what you do, it comes with a microphone, and it gives you it records your room. It's got some software, and you move the microphone around your room, and it does loads of beeps and weird kind of doot, doot, doot. It's a bit like, sheepdog trials. And it does all this stuff around your room. And it takes measurements of your room, and so it's trying to get your room flat, right? Which is what we all want. So that would be your mirror, like I was talking about right at the beginning. And this is what my room looks like. So you see that curve there. So my room has got loads of woof here, like around 100 is a terrible area for my room. And so it's measured that, which is great. But then what it does is it adds this EQ on top of it, which is this green one. So this plugin adds this EQ. And when you put that with this one, this is what you actually get. So this is what my room is like with this plugin, which is pretty good. If I play the track through this plugin, it would just probably sound weird to you. So there's no point me really doing that. But it just makes my environment, my listening environment, sound great and nice and flat. So this has really helped me a lot. I can't really speak higher of it, really. It's done a really good job. So I'm very pleased with that. And that was the whole mastering process. So I hope in some small way that video has been fun, educational, and informative. If you've got any comments, please leave them and I'll get back to you personally. And please subscribe, like, and share, and we'll see you soon.